next competitor is MedRoad, enhancing primary care using a cloud-based point-of-care diagnostic system.
Okay, here's my slides. Okay, so let's start with another scenario. Last time I talked about a cruise. Let's now talk about someone who lives in a remote community, maybe in the north of Canada, and where a GP is there maybe once a month to see his client. And let's say that you had all day some heart pinch, bad headache, maybe your stomach was not feeling too good. Where should you go? Well, one possibility, and that's actually where our technology will come in, you could go, for example, to your pharmacy and meet a nurse practitioner. And at the pharmacy, what she will do is measure you with those devices, which are basically medical grade devices that are part of a kit. The kit's about the size of a small box, and it includes blood pressure monitor, it includes ultrasound, it includes ECG, and the blue box there it includes metabolite analyzer. So now suddenly you step into a pharmacy, and then you actually equivalent to what the service you would get if you go to the University of Alberta Hospital. I mean, same type of measurement they can do. Of course, this lady cannot make the diagnostic for herself, so she would actually collect all this data through the cell phone, ship that to a service, which could be, for example, the GP of the patient, or if he doesn't have a GP, some other GP, and looking at the information, decide whether it is a critical case or non-critical case. For example, we could, for example, measure troponin in the metabolite analyzer and actually allow you to predict, for example, heart attack. Once that's done, then the system will kick in where basically information will be sent to the proper channel, and then you may be sent to the hospital, or the helicopter will come and pick you up. So this is another example of how the system would work. And in many ways, there's many applications of this system, ranging from, of course, like I just described, rural medical and condition, oil field. Paramedics in oil field could actually make the measurement, and they could actually, for example, ship this information to doctors that are being paid to actually monitor remotely patient. Ambulance, the kit initially was designed for the city of Paris. The paramedics that are in the ambulance would measure their patient in the ambulance, and as you arrive at the emergency, you would get all the information about the particular patient. General practitioner could have that part of there. And of course, the other one is airplanes. So as you see, there's a lot of application for these systems, and I think it would be a good investment to actually invest in that technology and deploy it, especially for the healthcare system, where we can actually reduce the cost of healthcare.
Thank you.
Questions?
So I'll kick it off. The target markets that you identified, Pierre, are very, very crowded. Telemedicine, transport medicine, service in the oil fields is a big STARS contract already. How do you see yourself fitting into that crowded space?
Well, of course, like any company, we will not focus on, start with all the markets. Certainly one of the markets that seem to be ripe for that is the oil market. For example, a paramedic in the oil field, they would like to measure, for example, if an operator in a heavy machinery is about to have a heart attack, or there's a chronic problem with them, how you can actually monitor them. Of course, because we developed this system, we're making pilot studies. One of the pilot studies, a very reduced version of that, where we're actually giving to quite a few patients blood pressure and a cell phone, simple system, very simple. Blood pressure, $80, your cell phone, and monitoring daily what is your blood pressure fluctuation. The advantage of this system is it actually give you a historic of the patient, and so when the GP, or like for example, I come from computer science, where data miner can actually look at that and actually try to predict the outcome of the particular condition.
Question here.
John Conley.
I think I mentioned this to you, but there is a competitor, a Dock in a Box, which is a roboticized, looks like a little R2-D2, since there's a new Star Wars flick coming up, and it can take photos, and they're using it. It's a California-based company. They're using it in northern Saskatchewan to pilot it. Where do you see yourself with advantages or disadvantages against this competitor?
Well, I mean, certainly, if you could control a robot, I mean, that's very futuristic in a sense, but we know that there's nurse pretty much in many communities. We know that they don't necessarily know all the medical process. For example, measuring your heart, getting an image, for example, of your valve. We have a little ultrasound system from GE. It's about the size of a cell phone. And actually, we tried, and you can actually guide the patient to actually get, for example, the valve image. And then this valve image, of course, cannot be analyzed by the nurse, but will be analyzed by a heart specialist remotely. By using the cell phone, the advantage is you communicate between the one who take the measure, the point of care measurer, and the actual person who does the diagnostic. And I think this interaction between them, especially if it's live, is very important for good diagnostic quality.
Time for one last question. How do you plan to use the money is the question.
Well, I just have a startup that happened in June to commercialize some of that, MedBike, MedRoad, and I can tell you that we do need money desperately. So we're in the process. We managed to get money from IRAP, but we're running out. Some of the initial money, I mean, to the development, where we brought it to actually fully working machine, was made by Cisco System. Cisco System have actually a lot of interest into this, and actually is very interested to actually eventually put that into their catalog.
Thank you.